What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Justin Rodriguez, your favorite lender here at Neighborhood Loans, and we're super excited to be back in the cigar lounge, guys. I know that was a super request from everybody, but if you're in a cigar lounge, you know who's going to be here. We're returning guest. Dwight Marroquin is here. We also have a special guest, and I'm going to let Dwight Marroquin introduce him because he is absolutely amazing and has a ball of wisdom, guys. So stay tuned, get your cafecito ready, and make sure to take some notes. Go ahead, Dwight.
Thanks a lot, Justin. This is the second time, and obviously same setting, right? The only way you know how to get me to do this. But thank you once again for making me do this, because I definitely need to be doing this more often. So thank you for hosting again, Justin.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure.
More than anything, I'm excited to have one of my mentors. We talked the last podcast about mentorship, and this guy I've known for over a decade now. He's been in the business for 20 years. He was one of the original guys that started Salamanca with Salamanca. And this is like a real estate company that was in the Bucktown, when Bucktown was a little rough back in the day, and they created an empire. I think probably 20% of the people that I know that I work with currently right now came from that. Another 20% of realtors that I currently work with came from that. So it goes to show you the kind of impact this guy has made in Chicagoland industries, mortgage and real estate. So, enough of me. I got to introduce the guy that he's now a national speaker, training with individuals that have a lot more.
Tim Tebow, just with him yesterday. It's crazy, man.
This guy's amazing, and I can't say enough about him. John DeJulio.
Well, one, I appreciate the nice things that these two are saying about me, but I'm here as a result of just a great friendship for many years with Dwight. And I happen to love the industry and mortgage banking, and would only be here because of these two. And none of us grows in life without the help of others. And I was lucky enough early on in my career, as Dwight talked about, to get the right people around me, including a Salamanca, et cetera. And have just continued to scale it since then. So I'm happy to be here, and have a high regard for both these two good-looking human beings.
It's a pleasure to honestly even be here with you. And we speak a lot about mentorship and just how the overall growth, and I feel like just being here with you present and just learning about how you got started and your journey. I think everyone wants to hear it because obviously you heard a great introduction. So give us a little bit on your journey.
Well, let me give you first how I met John DeJulio.
There you go.
John was my branch manager back at Wells Fargo, and he came with some energy that I've never seen before from a branch manager. He had a meeting with us and rattled us up. And basically told us we're going his way. If you don't like it, go to the middle of Jackson and die. Well, I really appreciated that because I like when people tell me how it is and everything's straight, Well, the next day I got a call from my manager if I was offended by the comments he's made. So I guess it got to corporate that he told people to go in the middle of Jackson and die. I immediately went up with him because of those comments, and we've been close ever since. But he has a unique sense of getting the message across. And there's one thing I tell you about John, he is a wealth of knowledge that's no nonsense. So when you hear him talk about how he's built his empire, it's no bullshit. It is truly facts. It's not the guy that's telling you how to build a portfolio of businesses and without having the actual credentials to prove it. And John, you can take it from there, bro.
Yeah, I got to give some context here. Okay, I was a little bit more eloquent than that. I don't think I'm ever cut out for corporate America. I didn't ever. I've only ever owned my own businesses, but what was apparent is that there was a jolt of energy needed, and quite frankly, what they were doing wasn't working outside of Dwight, who I had just met. So I don't remember. I was a little bit more eloquent. I did use that language. I did not know. You had to be there to understand. It came from the heart. It was in a good way. But reality is that people, they like to hope, and I'm not about hope. I'm like, just go do it. And ironically, all these years later, and many things that have changed, we're sitting here doing this podcast. But I have to say something about Dwight, Justin, as you get into more of what's going on in the mortgage landscape. What I recognized about Dwight was he was my twin in the sense of I've never seen anyone just go do everything needed to build a business, and the results were there. And I had such a high regard for that. And it's kind of like follows like. And so I didn't know Dwight that well. We had met, I think, once prior to that for about 10 seconds. But what was fun about that whole thing is I did find out the next day that I didn't, I wasn't loved by most, but Dwight stood up for me, not even knowing it. And then we've gone out, we did a lot of great things since. And I'll never, ever forget, sort of the journey to get here from there. So I appreciate the kind words. Give it a little context. It came from the heart. I just meant go in the middle of Jackson Boulevard if you don't like it. And if you get run over by a car, it's not my problem. If you don't want to go my way, because you go that way instead. It was a metaphor, but I didn't choose my words.
Well, that's
carefully.
just to show you how Dwight gets motivated, because he's my mentor. So those are the words he used those on me.
Yeah.
So I'm very familiar with that, but we're really excited to just kind of introduce you. Like he said, a lot of the realtors, even that I work with till this day, have stemmed from you. So give us your journey on how everything came about.
You know what? I owe it all to, it's by accident I got in the industry. I think that's what happens with most folks. I had a background in ironically playing soccer overseas, and I came back and I had some time to kill, and good friends of mine that had a company said, hey, while you're waiting for the next season, sign a contract, why don't you come in the industry? And I did. I entered the mortgage business backwards though. Most people learn origination. I actually started working with secondary and then origination. And so I understood the business backwards to forwards, which was a big benefit years later. I was very fortunate to get around good people at the beginning when I started my first company, second company. I had a great partner in Salamanca, big time in the real estate industry, also in the mortgage banking industry, extremely talented on what makes money, right? And I think it gets lost on a lot of people. They get into the metrics of, how many calls do you make, and at the end of the day, people want to succeed in this industry. And unless it's an incredible market, which we've had two or good, I call them salmon runs, but the rest of the time you have to know what you're doing. And that comes down to the language we use, motivating folks, creating desire for people to want to do stuff with us. And I learned that at a young age and just kind of honed it since then. Quite frankly, that's why Dwight and I are so close. So my journey in this industry was, running companies, selling them. And I've always been on the periphery, helped write exams, created schools. And to this moment, I still do sales trainings for companies around the country. So on top of doing some keynote speaking and whatnot. But I love the industry. I'll never leave it. It's the best.
For sure. Well, dive a little bit deeper into the whole speaking about sales, because I think that's super important in figuring out how to develop a business.
Sure.
You got to learn how to sell, and there's just a whole psychological part that you touch base on. And so give us a little insight on the trainings that you go.
It's funny because, there's two things you can't teach. That's awareness and charisma. You can teach technique, you can teach, language, and you can, take it to the loan business or realtor business, right? You can teach how to write contracts. You can teach how to use software. And I think what gets lost on a lot of managers, and I'll tie it back to Dwight, because this is why we got so close early on, is if you struggle winning people, right, then it's going to be a struggle to get business unless it's a lead gen only. And, when you're in an easy market, everybody survives. But you see the true talent when you have to actually go work for business, and people want to be around people because they like being around people. You got to have a magnetic personality. And for most of us, we want to do well. We just never taught how to do that kind of stuff. And so I learned that more and more through the years. I went into, with my partner creating schools, teaching real estate, teaching mortgage back in the old days. Mm-hmm. That got me excited to be in front of groups. And then, it's weird because it's like, you can't just say, oh, I want to become a speaker. How do you do that? How do you get someone to just pay you to be a speaker, right? There's not a school you go to, especially back in the old days. And I'm talking, 10, 15 years ago when I really looked at it. Yeah. And I just kept getting curious and more curious and learning from others and dismissing some and falling in love with others. And I always had an intention, a drive, and a focus that one day I would be there. And little by little, I got there. And then you get around better people. And, if I had to give anybody any advice on this, whatever you want to do, but in this case, speaking or training or sales, that kind of thing, get around people that have just great results and just literally copy them. We talk about this all the time. Why is that person get the results I want? How does a Tony Robbins become a Tony Robbins? Well, there's something he's doing that others aren't. And so I actually cut bait. I've always gotten, I've stayed in the industry, but in 2014-ish, I'm like, that's it. I'm going to go out and get paid for this, and haven't looked back since. But I've always stayed on the periphery, and now I train others. I have, sales trainings I do. I still do keynotes. I was just in Austin. I just did a big event. Got back from Jacksonville yesterday. So it's madness.
Yeah.
And you keep learning, That's why I love working with Dwight, because we're friends, and we talk all the time offline. And I've never seen anyone do it like he does it, And I think that comes from he cares about people. A lot of people look at you as a number. I know we've both felt that way in our careers at points. And if you love people and you care about people and you show them what you're doing, then they want to be around you because you help them. And ultimately, it's good for everybody. So anyways, that's my life's journey in real estate.
He's being a little modest right now. I can tell you right now. But one thing I'll tell you about John is what we talk about, right? Is everyone knows what they have to do. You have to make so many calls to get results, right? You have to make, depending on any model you follow, whether you're making 40 calls on a Tuesday, whatever structure you're used to doing or you want to do. One of the key fundamentals that is lost is how do you do it? And one of the things that John and I talk about is getting people prepared, not just making the calls, but what do you say when you sit down with them?
That's so good.
How do you earn people's respects, or at least earn their trust to instill and make sure that their clients call you? And it's very important that not just doing the activities, but now you dive deeper. What makes someone great is actually learning how to talk to people.
Yeah.
It's one thing that fascinated me about John is, and I will talk about that right now, is, one thing that he introduced me to is the colors, the personality. I mean, I've been to a lot of trainings, and, being with John, there's story selling. We can go into, we don't have enough time today, but one of the key ones is learning people's personality. Right, you're not going to sell somebody that's a blue or red. You have to know.
Well, let's dive deeper into it. Give a little summarized.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you're the master at it. Yeah.
So years and years ago, I started to understand that, everybody's wired a certain way when we respond. So at the end of the day, people move or do things with us, including they want to become our client, or we can sell them anything, a service or product, because we've created desire, right? But what many folks don't realize is that everybody's wired differently. So when we realize that, it's one thing, how we're talking to someone matters. But if we don't know how they're wired, and I'll explain that more in a second, you can feel free to jump into it. But it's one thing to know your audience, right? What makes them excited and tick to create desire to want to do stuff with us. It's another to know how they perceive you. And it took me years to realize that, but when I did, it changed the results. And so, many of you watching this may have heard of I study the psychology of human behavior constantly. And colors, as Dwight is talking about, some people refer to it as DISC assessment or personality assessment, but it's real simple. And it is probably the most valuable thing that ever I learned and then apply and studied to this moment, is that there's really 4 personality types. And again, I promise you, if you research this more, some people call them animals, some people call them colors, some people say, personality DISC assessment, but I'll use colors for the sake of the example quick. There's 4 personality types. So if you use colors, think like a perfect circle and then split it right up vertically and sideways horizontally in quarters. There's what they call a red personality, a blue personality, yellow, and green. Those are the 4 colors. And we all have a dominant, which we trend to and gets us excited. And then we trend to a secondary. Now, all of us have a little bit of all personality. So I'll give you a quick example. And I know it's hard to do this visually, but if your personality trait is, dominant red, that means that person's driven, they're ambitious, they want to drive 11 Ferraris, they want to own the world, right? We all know people like that.
Yeah.
People say type A. Blue is different. Blue is their dominant personality is more, they're fun. I would joke around and say to Dwight, look, those are the kind of people, if they have $1 left to their name, they're going to a bar, right? That's their personality that drives them. A yellow personality is more like an engineer type. They like checklists. They get excited about structure. And those are your accountant type personality. And then green is more like they're driven because they want to save the whales. Greenpeace, right? Their motivator is not to own 11 Ferraris. Now, why that's so important, especially in sales, just the basics to understand that. We could delve into this for hours, and we do, especially from a recruiting or sales perspective, is this. If I'm talking to anyone in sales and I'm trying to sell them on working for me or selling them a product, and I don't first discover what their dominant personality is, the language I'm using may not be resonating. So it's a waste of everybody's time. And I'll give you a best example. If your personality, just example, Justin, is dominant red, but I talk the entire time, oh, Justin, you should come work in this industry with me, because if you work with me, and again, you're dominant red, and all I talk about is
saving the whales.
And, we get together and donate to non-for-profits. You may care about that, but that's not exciting you. Versus this language, look, you come here, I'm going to show you how to get the most business you've ever seen in your life, or whatever. Conversely, and by the way, I got to be clear on this for the sake of this being taped. are being cascaded out to the world is not one personality is better than the other, right? We all have a little bit of each, but if I can identify your dominant and then what you kind of try and do secondary, I can tailor my language, get you excited for what I have to offer, whether that's in sales, recruiting, whatever. You know, if somebody's fun and I'm trying to recruit you and I realize you're blue, I'm not going to say, come work for me because, you know, we're going to go save the whales. I'm going to say, oh my God, you don't even understand. The thing I love most about coming here and working with me, Justin, is, you know, we're family and, you know, nights end and we're at the bars having, you know, we get together, potluck dinners. That's going to excite that person more than if I say, you don't even understand. We have the structure. The software is unbelievable. That's for my yellow guy.
Yeah.
Does it make sense or no?
No, that definitely makes sense.
And when I started to realize that, I stopped wasting my time and other people's time, right? Because I was trying to force something down their throats, if you will, or in the sense of like, here, this is what we offer. Great rates, unbelievable software and structure. And that's not what got them excited.
Mm-hmm.
But they were the right fit. It was me who was ruining it because I didn't understand it. And then the second part of this is, it's one thing to understand your audience, but also know how they perceive you. Because we have to recognize, you know, that we may not resonate with them, and we have to understand why, so we can call that out and address it to make it okay. So I know it's quick, but just off that basis, most people don't learn those basic things.
Yeah.
And through the years, I've gotten better and better at learning that stuff and identifying with folks. So,
but I love that though. I absolutely love that because I think a lot of people just don't know that type of information and how to actually sell, because it's the key part is education, right? Yeah. And educating our people. And I think when I first got into the industry, Dwight was he didn't tell me anything. For all the people that didn't watch the first podcast, that was the biggest thing, is he really, honestly, when I first got into the business, he didn't really sit down and said, this is exactly what you do. He just said, follow my steps. Yeah. Surrender to the process. Don't do anything. Just watch the things that I had to do. And I follow his steps. But hearing the analytical portion of it and actually hearing the background of how to sell, it's interesting to see, you know.
I work with several LOs, right? We got 28 people in my world, and everyone's personality, like you said, is different.
Yeah.
You can have a great personality, but you also have to have the discipline to actually do it. We talked about this earlier. Like, I can teach you everything you need to know to be successful in the industry. If you don't have the discipline to do it, it doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how much I teach you. Just don't have the drive to do it.
Right.
So having that drive, and like when we first got on, that's what I said, kids nowadays don't watch good movies. I said, you never watch The Godfather, never watch Karate Kid. And that was the first homework I gave them. Go watch Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Right? And the metaphor of that was wax on, wax off.
So
you don't ask me anything. I ask you to go pick up the cleaners, whatever it is. You're going to be my shadow and just do what I say. No questions asked. Everything has a purpose.
Yeah.
And I knew right away he listened. He was, he had his own vision. And the number one thing, he was disciplined. And which is why you're at where you're at right now. And I'm so proud of you because now you started this and you continue to do it. You don't just fall back. You've been very successful. And you can stop whatever you're doing now, Justin, and you're going to reap the benefits of everything you work for. But it's not enough.
Justin, see why I love him? Because you're talking about Dwight's talent and he's more interested in what you've accomplished, which is why we got so close early on. And I have to share this with you quick. Can I cut you in?
Wow,
this is what we've done this for a decade together.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I discovered when I first started working alongside Dwight is people are drawn to him. Now, Dwight's funny and he's fun, but he cares. And that's evident, right? But he, when we talk in terms of education, which is the word you use specifically.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree is education important, right?
100%,
of course.
Yeah.
But I think that word's overused because most people, when they talk in terms of education, especially when it comes to our industry or sales in general or building anything in business, it's not so much people need the help in the education because there's a ton of ways to get educated, right? It's they need help with the implementation. And what I would observe about Dwight, more than probably anyone I'd ever seen, especially in that moment, is he would take it, internalize it, whatever he's learning, but then he would go do it. And you get the result. And if you didn't get it, you tweak it. So I would tell people, why does Dwight get the results? It's different than you. And it comes, like you say, the discipline, he just goes and does it. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. You tweak it to get better and better and better. That's why in any market, up market, down market, good rates, bad rates, whatever, Dwight will always kill it. And I always push him. I said, you know what? You need to teach the world. Like, dude, people would benefit from just sitting with you. And I'm about production. I just want to leave me alone. I'm like, no, you don't understand the talent you have. It's time at some level with your experience, you have to show others how to do it. And he does. He was doing that naturally anyhow.
Yeah.
And I always would push you for that. And
no, it's part of my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it's a good sentiment about, I always look at people like you, right? I could say everything to, we're salespeople, right? There's always a financial gain for me to sit down with a loan officer, especially a new loan officer, and tell them what they need to do, teach them what they need to do.
Yeah.
But we don't have results. I can always point back at you. That's why it was so, for me, important for you to do what I said that you needed to do. But more important is you had the drive to do it and you did it.
Yeah.
I have an example right in front of me that if you do everything that you're supposed to do, results will come. This industry is not a, overnight kind of thing. As you know, it takes time to build a business. But if you're consistent, and one of the things you do better than anyone else in the industry is the consistency. Your discipline is off the charts, Justin, off the charts. But again, now it's your next phase of your career. Continue doing what you're doing, but now it's the education part, right? Which, what do I do? Everyone can improve on anything. And if you feel like you know it all, you've already failed. I'm constantly, we talk all the time, and I constantly, John, what do I do here? John, what
do you think?
What do you think? And he hasn't been working in the mortgage industry in I don't know how long, but I still confide in him because of the experience now on a national level now, which is greater because now he's touching people that are at a higher level than I'm used to seeing, So it's more important for me to talk to him and keep that dialogue going with him because I'm always a sponge as well. I'm just learning different tasks in my career and what I'm doing now than what I did when you were doing. But it gets to that point where everything we talk about is, you talk about education. That is the key to success because you learn how to do it better. Not to say you're doing it wrong, not to say anybody else in the industry is doing it wrong, but you can do it better and make it easier on you. You don't have to work as hard when you're smarter at what you're doing. And you learn how to hone in on your task, on your craft, and you get better at it by education. And there's guys like John that have the experience where they teach you about the colors. They teach you about, we haven't even talked about story selling. I was one of his, oh my God, I was at we're at Mastermind, at his house. And, this guy just comes up and he starts telling a story. I'm like, I'm ready. I didn't want to buy life insurance. I'm like, shit, I'll take, I'll take two. Like, that's the kind of impact story selling can do. And I had no idea what the hell story selling was. I haven't even brought it up to you guys because, we haven't gone deeper in it, but that's another set of examples that people can use on talk about education, learn how to sell outside of, I got good rates and I got good marketing. I'll pay for your Zillow. Yeah. That can get you in the door and that's going to get you a little bit, but doing the things that other people aren't doing and by educating them, that's, there's a saying, I can give you a fish you eat for the day, but I teach you how to fish you eat for a lifetime. That's so good. And it's just.
Well, the thing that I think the industry falls short in, I think this is both as, for realtors and loan officers, and this probably is universal with any sales organization is, you'll have managers that ascend to that level for whatever reason, nepotism, or just because they were decent at some level or hung around long enough to get those roles. And they have to meet KPI metrics, right? We've all seen that, banks and lenders, real estate companies, whatever. And they have to put pressure on their staff. And they'll say, okay, loan officers, as an example, you go and talk to more realtors. And many are ambitious enough to go do it. But then when they go outside to do it, they go, well, what do I say? And believe me, that realtor knows why you're calling them. And so that's not good enough anymore. And as a manager, if you don't know the things Dwight's learned, not just through my involvement working with him, but his own stuff on his own and many other levels, it's very challenging. At the end of the day, people move because you create desire. We don't create desire because my rates are better today because everybody knows, well, tomorrow they won't be. You create desire because you're building something they can't get anywhere else.
Right.
And that's down to personality. That's down to winning people. That's down to having a system to even know how to create desire. And there's a lot of ways we do that. And it takes work, and it takes experience. Anyone can learn how to use mortgage software, right? Anybody can learn loan programs. Anyone can learn, what investors we're selling to. or whatever. And maybe that's not the right way of saying it. I don't want to say anyone can learn that because there's specialties here, right? But where the rubber meets the road is if you have a person like Dwight, yourself, that care about what's the next thing. And the funny thing, I have to say this is, we can only gain as much knowledge as the people we have access to, right? And if you look at the top, the challenge with anything is most of us just don't have access to the best. Because the reality is, if you look at the top 1% in any industry, for most of us, especially in sales, right, we're all aggressive, is if we know what they know, right, and we just copy what they do, we'll get the same results. Challenge is that most people don't want it, is we just don't have access to those folks. And it was sort of my life mission to say, okay, well, why are people at that level? Why do you have the best of the best in anything, from sports to whatever? The funny thing is, in sports, okay, there are some limitations because if you just don't have the athletic ability, you're not going to get to the top, right? Even though you can want it as bad as you want, but there's some things you can't control. But when it comes to these types of things, it's just how bad you want it. You know, would you agree with that?
I 100% agree.
I think desire is the strongest trait that you can have in order to accomplish anything, you know?
Well, otherwise it's an excuse fest. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the reason I love this guy, even when we get into it, we were good friends. There were times I'd look at him like, okay, yeah, it's not perfect. So what are you going to do? Still got to figure it out because the world doesn't care.
Right.
You still got to make it work. So go make it work. And then you start to overcome that and you sort of assist each other. It's also the beauty of having a great team around you. You know, we can talk till we're blue in the face, but it's really the truth. I think curiosity too, you know, never stop learning. But it's not just for the sake of learning. It's to go and implement it to really, you know, whether it's to make money, but why do you want to do it? You know?
Right.
Let me ask you, John, not to cut you off, but what do you think people's, you know, why don't they implement? Like, what is their biggest, in your opinion, what is people's biggest fear of implementing? I can tell you because I was that guy.
Yeah.
Back when Jim Eberly, you know, he picked me, right?
Yeah.
Performance improvement plan. He's like, shit, or get off the pot. Basically what he told me. And I made a decision like, you know what? I'm going to show him I can do it.
Yeah.
That drove me to do what I needed to do to show him that, yes, I can do it. And then I said, I'm out of the industry. I'm going to show you what I can do it. But once I got a taste of it, it was like crack. I could not, I wanted it more, man. And it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing.
Just disclaimer, that's the white way.
But what do you think people's, you know,
truth?
lack? Yeah.
I don't even think it's most salespeople's faults. I think it's management's fault. And I'll tell you why. It starts with the culture and the person you're bringing in to begin with. And it goes back to colors. And it's like a coach in a sport. Not every player is the same. So how do you get the most from them? With you, and you could say the same thing about me, is you thrive under challenges. But you're also, you know, if I were going to look at you initially, you're fun, you are ambitious and driven, you're very structured. You've got an analytical background. The reason I think most people struggle to implement what they're supposed to do is they're never given the blueprint because the person managing them doesn't know even how to give them the blueprint. They know how to say things like this. Well, if you want to succeed, you got to have a calendar. You got a time block. Everyone's like, oh, that's great. Great. Yeah, good notes. But yet that has nothing to do with getting a deal. It just means you now have your day organized. But how do I fill that with clients? And both are valuable. And I mean that, right? However, the implementation part is I'm not getting the clients. There's a reason for that. It's either because I'm not talking to people or I don't know how to talk. And the truth is, it's not that people don't want to talk to it. They don't know how because it feels so salesy or it feels so obvious. And that is where you worked hard. I also think it comes down to, like Justin was talking about, a little bit of desire. You know, I'd take anyone I knew that showed I wanted, you know?
I think, well, at least for me, I can speak for myself. A lot of it was confidence. And I think the education gives you that confidence, right? Because for me, it was,
that's so well said.
I didn't want to talk to somebody because I got turned down. I remember the first real estate office that I'm not going to say the name. It had no solicitation on the door. And I walk in there with an actual deal. And the lady told me, she's like, do you know how to read? She was the gatekeeper. She was the receptionist. I knew what she was talking about. And I said, read Spanish, English, French, Italian, you know? And she's like, we don't accept solicitation here. And I said, I had my deal, a pre-approval on a little, you know, cardboard. It was real. The presentation was top notch and giving somebody a commission check. And this lady they had an in-house lender. This lady did not let me through the door because she was so loyal to the guy there. That brought down I was deflated. and I didn't want to get turned down again.
Yeah.
So I was very hesitant at doing it again. Not until I got that confidence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, I'll go back in there now. Now it's my goal to get past that gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And once I got past it, so the second time I'm like, if I get past her, I can make it there. But it wasn't until a year and a half later, I came in there with a box of cookies. Then I didn't even ask her for anything. 6 months later, she's like, oh, Dwight, this person's looking. And it changed me, right?
So can I jump in with you on something? So I think the critical part there is you gain confidence because there's belief. And when you're new, you don't know, right? You don't even know what you don't know. And I think that's why working for the right person that has proven experience and can do what you do is the most important thing. Because it doesn't matter if you're brand new what you know. It only matters what I know until you learn. If you copy it and then just make it your own. And I think what happens for a lot of people is they've never seen what you've done. I mean, I literally would tell people through the years, I don't know if I have the right advice for anyone. But if I were you, I'd go watch what Dwight does. Watch how he talks, how he wins people instantly through that smile.
I agree.
Or the personality. Because nobody cares about your interest rates. I mean, don't get me wrong, you got to be in the market. That's not the determining factor. That's an excuse. People want to be around excited, magnetic personalities. If you can create that and then honor the work, right? You got to still perform. You can build this as big as you want. But most people don't have access to that. You know, that's why I always felt you should go build a monster with the right organization because there's so few of you out there. And I mean that as a high compliment. That's why we got along so good.
No, I 100% agree. I think when I got into the business, becoming successful wasn't something that I felt was out of reach because I saw what he did.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. And so the biggest thing that I learned though from that in the beginning and experience when I started getting into the industry and I started growing with you was that exactly what you said. I feel like if you meet enough people and you recreate what they do, but with your own spin to it, you'll achieve success. But the biggest thing that Dwight has is he has a plethora of people that you can have access to, you know, and you can gauge and get knowledge from. And that was the one thing that he always tells me is he never gave me a deal, but he gave me access to the John DeJulio's of the world. And he allowed me to have conversations with people, which all it did was expand my mind. Yeah. And it created a stronger desire. It's like, I met you and I met all these people who are already successful in the industry. And I'm like, they're human. You know, you probably meet the people who are on stage all the time and you're like, man, they're human. They're just like me. There's nothing different than what I am. And I think the biggest thing to your story, what I love about it is you didn't stop until you met people to get to where you wanted to be. You want to be a speaker, but you were like, okay, I don't like this speaker. I don't think he's where he needs to be. I'm going to keep going until I get to where I want to be. So honestly, how much of the key to your guys' success is
I'll give you the story. Going back to where we're, how John dropped the bomb on us. He was our BM for a year or two, maybe.
Yeah.
And he decided to just got up and quit. We thought for sure he was going to go to a competitor. I got pretty close to John and I kind of told him, like, where are you going? What's better? Are you going to leave me? Are you kidding me? And he's like, I'm going to go be a national speaker. Some trading, OTA, online trading, I remember. And I said, are you insane? You're just going to give up your overrides and everything else? Come on, you're not thinking straight. And our other, managers told him the same thing. They sat me down. Don't worry about it, Dwight. He'll be back 6 months. He won't survive. He won't make it. He's going to realize that he needs to make money. He'll be back, blah, blah, blah. And I talked to him again. John, are you sure you want to do this? And the way he looked at me and he told me, I'm an entrepreneur. I've always been an entrepreneur. I took this job because I had a non-compete, but it was never long-term for me. I'm going to do something I've always dreamed of doing, and I'm going to give it my all.
And mind you, then and there, everybody that doesn't know, overrides, commission, all that means is that all the people that were under him as a manager, all that commission was a portion of it's going to come to him. So for people who don't know, he was giving up all the things that he built over the last 20 years of his business, all to chase a dream, which that's like.
And it's something that I know it was scary for him. But once I heard him tell me that, I realized that this guy's going to make it because he's built empires. And when he puts his head to it, He's driven, and he's got the personality. He's a great speaker as it is. And I knew you were going to succeed. It's just a matter of time and how long it was going to take you.
Yeah.
But kudos to you,
Thank
John. You're very focused, and you
kind words.
You are the epitome of people wanting something
and they go do
and
it.
go do it. Go after it. You know?
Yeah, man. I feel like almost like this is a paid advertisement. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. No, you know what's funny is I think the way people look at life is important. I don't want to prognosticate here because we don't have the time, but I think we all have talents. And the worst thing that I think happens to people is they know they're meant for something more in life, but something stops them from doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they get to the end of the journey and they look back and go, why did I spend my whole life doing something I wasn't meant to do, when they know they had these incredible talents or desires, I should say, right? Because I don't even think I'm a great speaker, to be honest with you. I don't even finish my sentences. I drive people crazy. But what I know is if you're genuine, it comes from the heart, people buy into that, which is why you and I got along, quite frankly. Which is why, even though I said, I want you to go in the middle of Jackson Boulevard and die, I didn't literally mean that, okay? What I meant was, listen, let me inspire you, because if you go my way, I know what will work and I won't give up on you. But yeah, I knew, I think that's also important in life just in general, right? There's no option to fail. I mean, and people talk about that a lot, but they don't have the fortitude or the guts to go do it. The other thing too, though, is we have to have access. We got to find access to the right folks. And that might take time, but you go do it. There's a reason why you've succeeded in what you're doing. I think the format you have with the company you're with and what they've designed and how you are culturally with them is a perfect fit. I also think you yourself are the hook to want to do things. And look, I've been around a ton of management, ton of supervisor, ton of all that stuff. And universally, the ones that always win are the ones that run it like you do. And it's crazy, Justin, I'll tell you this, because I know you guys have a close relationship, but there's very few Dwights out there. And this is not a stroke fest. Are we allowed to say stroke fest? Yes? Yeah. Like, I can't stress this enough. There's technical knowledge, structure, rates, software, scheduling, which has nothing to do with getting deals. And people will argue till they're blue in the face. That's busy work. That's great. But if I don't know how to talk to get one deal, I can't make money. Learn the other part, which is the hardest. And that's what you have. Because the other stuff's easy. Or get someone to do it for you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just be real. But nobody can replace what you know. And then just duplicate it. We can talk about this till we're blue in the face. And there's levels too, right? Everybody's like, level up. There really are levels, And here's what's crazy, what I learned. Just one thing that's important. As I got further and further in the speaking world, I started to realize there's people that did better. And I realized it's no different than sports, And the higher up the food chain you go, believe it or not, the more humble and selfless the people are, because they're so confident and comfortable in their own skin that they never feel like, I can't share stuff with you because it'll hurt me. Conversely, they want to lift you up. And the levels below that, it's the opposite. I don't want to help you because that's such a poor way of thinking. Give everything you got to people. Overgive in training, overgive in your heart, overgive in everything. And believe it or not, the law of reciprocation eventually comes back to you just naturally. That's what you guys have, both you two. But the best of the best of the best, and I'm talking, I've been in rooms with the best, and I won't name drop, but I'm talking, it took me years. I'm sitting in rooms with people that don't make less than many 7 figures a year. They're no different than you and I, but they do know things others don't. And they're willing to share it if you're willing to learn it and implement it. And that goes for the mortgage business. There's a lot of ambitious folks that will never succeed because they think they've learned it all and they stop learning.
And one thing I commend Dwight is opening doors like this, because I think it's inevitable. Like,
right.
For me to fail would be almost impossible because you open doors like this. I hear a story where you're playing overseas in soccer, then you get into mortgage business, become successful, then you become a public speaker, then you're successful, and when you open doors like this, right?
Yeah.
It creates another level of desire, right?
Well, he did fail in soccer. I mean, he didn't make it to the next level, but we won't talk about that right now.
Couple professional years in contracts.
But that's successful
never
to me.
Never had an issue playing against any of the Hispanics in Chicago. Those were easy.
But I love the story behind it because it really shows you in every industry that you've gotten into, you gave it 110%, you desired it, and you, in whatever perspective you want to have, were successful, you know? So you jumped from career to career and gave it your all and desired and truly desired what you wanted and achieved a certain level of success that a lot of individuals dream of. Yeah. You know, and that's something that I commend you. And Dwight opened this door for me, you know, and I wouldn't have this door. I wouldn't have any of the success that I've had thus far if it wasn't for the doors that were open outside of it, you know?
You know what, Justin? None of us grows without the help of others. And I realized it early on. You know, I think I compared always to sport. And I didn't love every coach I played for, but as I got higher and higher through the years, whether it's regional teams, youth national teams, college pro, whatever, I took something good away from all of the people that I played for. And I'll tell you this much, in this, if you compare that to business, like I have high admiration for people to just go do it. When Dwight talked to me about what's being built here and we've met, I'm like, he's doing his own podcast? How old is you? Like, how old is Justin? But it didn't matter to you. It doesn't matter. Just go do it.
Yeah.
And, the talent will come out. And if it's not there now, which by the way, had nothing to do with you, I was not good when I started. I was just, but be genuine and care and the world will follow you. I've struggled because one of the things I created was, when people own the world. That's my tagline. In the old days, it was just get it done, right? Just get it done. Go do it. Shut up. Stop talking. Just go do it. Which I think is needed. I think we've talked about that in the past. And then people have come back to me and say, I don't know what you mean by, when people own the world. It's kind of hokey. But then I thought about it later on, and I love that. Because if we understand how we can move people, we can have anything we want. I mean, everything from just being friendly with someone, being on a podcast, being on a stage, doing great in business. I always told the story to Dwight. I'm not going to go into it now. But I've yet to wait. And people, I promise you, I should sell this course. I should sell a course on this. Matter of fact, I might do this now that I think about it. I promise you, in 10 minutes, I can teach you a class how if you go to Disney, you will never, ever wait in a line. Ever wait in a line. I don't care if it's the busiest day at the busiest water park, Epcot, Disney. And people will laugh. And then when I show them, my kids, my wife, we never win. We don't buy the fast passes either. I just know how to win the people. But I'm probably going to screw myself now.
Yeah,
somebody from Disney, like, I'm not letting you in. But what I realized
you might get a call from that governor and say, give everyone that seat.
We move the world because we can move people, and if I had to teach a class on anything, that would be it. We like to be around people that excite us. And if we can create that atmosphere and inspire, we can move mountains.
Are you speaking about relationship?
Everything. Everything's relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's funny because, I can give you all the different closes that have been written about in the history of mankind. But just if people think about what gets them excited to be around others, there's a reason that you want to be around Dwight. There's a reason we like people we're around, right? That's how business gets done. That's how deals get done. That's how anything gets done. I've taught recruiting for years, and it's hilarious because people have no clue how to recruit. If all you can do is offer better rates, a sign-on bonus, well, guess what? The moment someone else comes with better rates down the road and a different sign-on bonus, the person's gone. So you bought them, you didn't recruit them. And recruiting is because they want to be in your ether, which ties to the company's culture and the people you're with. And it's relationships,
Yeah, I love that. And you guys have years of experience within this industry. And obviously you got many different parts of it and a bunch of different careers that you've been into. But with that being said, that you guys have many years of experience, do you guys have an idea of where the market's going to kind of segue into?
I would throw that to you first.
I can tell you based the last time we were here in December, it was the tough market, right? It was already about 3-4 months into rates being in the 7s. And, you look at people's success, they were successful 2-3 years ago. 2020, 2021, we have 80, 90, $100 million producers, but what are they doing now? Yeah. I just looked somebody up, through software we have, and they were a $90 million producer, and year to date is $7 million.
Yeah.
It goes to show you that it's a tough industry right now. It's a tough market. So if you don't learn the things that you need to know to succeed, and like I said before, back in the day, the market made the phone ring. Now you have to make it ring, and most people don't know how to make the phone ring. Going back to education, going back to what we talked about, it's funny because I look at LinkedIn now, right? The only social media I have, right? Or if you call it social media, and I see loan officers jumping from company to company.
Yeah.
Go to Consumer and MLS and type in a loan officer and see how many companies they've been at. And it goes to show you, is it the company? A lot of people, move for wrong reasons. And I think that for me, when I see the industry and the market where it's going, is it going to come back? Absolutely. How long is it going to take to come back? It's a question. No one knows, right? You think people said that market was this year, we're going to see rates in a 5. I don't believe that. I don't think rates are going to be in the 5s anytime soon. We're not going to see rates dip in the 5s till probably sometime this time next year, right? That's my opinion. But I do think that it's important for you to align yourself with the right company. If you're at a company that gives you what you need, education, they're giving you the tools, not just to John's point, not just rates and software programs and all that. No, they need to do the little things that people are not doing, is teaching them how to actually sell.
There's no doubt.
And if you get to a company that's giving you that, there's no need for you to move. But if your company is not giving you the little things that you need to succeed, learning how to sell, learning how to, I can't force you to make the calls. But to John's point, once you make the call and you sit down with someone, what are you going to say?
That's right.
I got the best rates. I got the best programs. Oh, I can turn a pre-approval down and, I can give you in 30, 2 minutes. I can give you. That's not going to make that person better. You're just a tool at that point. And to John's point, you're going to get anyone else that can offer something better is going to take that referral partner away from you. Any company that gives you a higher bonus, signing bonus, is going to take that. It's inevitable. But if you give that person the tool they need to continue to succeed in this market, especially, you build someone long-term, which is what you have done. You don't know where rates are in 3-4%. You don't know that.
I barely knew what interest rates were.
Yeah.
I can tell you, Justin, your best years are yet to come. When the market turns, not only are you going to continue to do this and focus on your purchase transactions, but not everyone that you touched are now going to be another segment of your business, because those are the people that you need to reach out to give them a better living situation, right? Financially, you're going to lower the rate, you're going to lower the payment. You're building an empire, But more importantly is, the market where it's going, it doesn't matter where it's going. If you do the right things, who cares? Rates were, my first dad bought his house was at 13%.
Yeah.
And there were still people buying.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of rates. I said this before. I'm not a commodity. But what I will do, and you're a perfect example, if you follow the path that's needed with the right company, with the right leadership, you can succeed. And you're a perfect example of it. We have a couple more people that they're in that path as well. It takes time. It's not done overnight. But if you follow it and you align yourself with the right people, and that's the key thing, is the right people, you can succeed regardless of what the rates are. Because if you're worried about the rates right now and you don't have any deals, then you didn't do what's necessary to get yourself in a position to succeed in any market, which is a lot of people got into this industry when the rates were low and it was easy. Everyone got in. I'm glad that this rates are where they're at. This is like a purge. This is like a filter. Get rid of the people. Get rid of the people that don't belong in this industry.
Yeah.
Because it was saturated. Everyone thought they could do a deal because rates are at 3%. I get it. It's easy. Everyone can do it. Now the rates are 7%. You're going to start. If things maintain themselves the way I think they're going to maintain themselves, it's going to happen. People are going to get out of the business because they just can't afford to stay in the business.
Yeah.
They just can't. But it's not too late for you to align yourself with the right company, with the right leadership, with the right structure, with the right education, with the right things to make sure that you make the turn and be here when the market does turn. And the best way to put it is education. We go back and back over the same thing. If you align yourself with the right people that are focused, with the right company that are focused on the right things to make you succeed, it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but you got to align yourself with the right people, which is what we've been talking about.
Yeah. You want me to jump in on something?
Yeah, go ahead. Bro.
So it's funny because you talk about we're going to go through the purge, right? And we have a certain vintage, a certain age. both Dwight and I would dream to be your age. And if anybody's listening to this that started in this industry prior to the mid 90s when I got started, they have a whole different battle axe story to tell than Dwight and I will tell, and what Dwight just talked about. It's funny because we are all tainted based on our own experiences, right? So when I started, the funniest thing is the 30-year fixed rate was in the low 8s. And it didn't occur to me if that was good or bad because I was new. And when they dipped down to 7.5, we're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest market of all time. And then you get into the subprime lending, which was new at the time. We did 6-month LIBORs. And anybody that's over a certain age and been in this industry for a certain amount of time got excited with what I just said. But to your point, brother, you just talked about specifically, oh, my dad got a rate of 13% and people still made money. 18% people still made money. The great salmon run was a refi boom. And we've seen 3 of them in my career. And I would bet, similar with you, D. The reality is just new products come out, right? People have to understand Wall Street needs volatility. We need up and down, right? And the Feds drive that purposefully. And that's a specific opinion of mine. But the reality is without volatility in any market, no money can be made for the most part. So, education on the technical side is they'll go back to 2-1 buy downs. They'll go back, because values will tank. They have to, right? Because when volume slows down, supply and demand, price changes, whatever. All that aside, though, when you talk in terms of education, what do you mean? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, we'll train you. Well, what does that mean? You'll teach me how to use your computer. You got a training course for a week, and then it's up to me to get deals. Training's not that. Training is the nitty gritty of what you're talking about. It's like, okay, call realtors. Okay, how do I call a realtor? Well, they're not going to meet with you unless you create desire. Well, what do I say to create desire? Follow this, say it this way. That's why I admire Dwight. That's what he does. Not only for his own business, for his people. He just duplicate it. And then when you meet with him, what do you say to create desire to want to do deals with you? Anybody can get a deal and say, oh, if you give me a deal, I'll give you a deal. It's all nonsense, right? It doesn't work that way until you have the relationships built. Now, ultimately, you got to close a deal and you got to be responsive to clients and you got to do the job. But there is zero training out there, very little training out there on how to do all that stuff. How do you win people? How do I call a realtor, or how does a realtor call a loan officer or vice, whatever? Every manager in the world is like, go talk to more people. Okay, great. What do I say?
Right.
So, education is generic. The kind of education matters, and then being inspired to go do it. And when you fail, having someone to hold your hand. It's funny, when Dwight had no vested interest years ago, other than just production on his own, he would never know this, but I would listen to him helping other people with no agenda. He wasn't going to get paid off them because he didn't manage them. And people were enamored. How do you always have deals coming in? Because I've created a business because people want to be around me. Just do this. Some did, most didn't. But that's why he's here today. That's what actually made me say, plus, Dwight has other, talents. He speaks multiple languages. He's critically smart. He's very strategic with what he does. He was smart enough to align himself with a company that believes also in education. Very high compliments to where you're at because they have invested in their people. And not just because they give them great software and great rates. It's immaterial. Client doesn't even know what a good rate is or bad rate is. If you're in the market, you're in the market. An eighth or a quarter it's not the determining factor. Really, determining factor is the trust and belief in you. And that's also comes down to training, right?
And do you feel like that was something that was built over time, or do you feel like that was just something you naturally
That's such a good question. I'm curious what your answer is on that.
I could tell you, I think I've told you this before. It's, you first have to want to care about others in order for you to help. If you have it in you to care about others outside of yourself, then naturally you want to help, right? It's just, that's the first thing you got,
Genuine.
So genuinely, when you're genuine and you want to help others and you rather see them succeed, it's a different kind of, you get excited when you get a contract, right? I get excited when I get a recruit. It gives me the opportunity to show them why coming here was a good move, right? But I learned through the years, through the people that I've met as well, that I have a lot to learn. I mean, a ton to learn. Even though I thought I was good at what I was doing, I realized over the years that I'm good at this part of it. If I want to get to this level of it, I have to learn the things that John knows, because he surrounded himself with, we said that before, you soar with eagles, right?
So many.
He soared with eagles. the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, I can start name dropping for him and the people that he's worked with. I see these guys, writing books
Kiyosaki,
and Nagasaki, all these guys that he's surrounding himself with, that now I'm like, you know what? I can take their knowledge because he has access to them.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm a sponge on his stuff, we go back to, the colors. That to me is a game changer for me. The story selling, game changer for me. There are things that I still need to get better at, but I never would have known what those even were if it wasn't him.
Yeah.
And he would have known what they were, because when I first met him, he didn't talk about colors.
Right.
He didn't talk about that until he got the training when he was publicly speaking. So again, you elevate yourself, right? You can't be stagnant. You could be those producers right now that are listening to this, that were doing 80, 90 million in good markets, that are looking at their business right now. And you're been in a business for so long that you still do well. You're going to do your 30 million. If you're an 80, $90 million producer and you did business the right way, you'll do your 30 million. There's no doubt about it. If you had a lifestyle that needs you to make 80 million, you're in trouble. But that means that you have to take not just your database that you have, but learn the things that you're doing. You have no database and you'll do 30 million with no database in a hardest market. You compare yourself to I'll stack you. I just looked at a person that did 85, 87 million last year, 7 million year to date, just like you. Are they better than you? You're just doing the things that they weren't doing because they have the 7 million year to date. But it's because of the database and the people they've talked to and the relationship they've built over the years. But they stopped doing the things that you're doing that is preventing them to stay on pace for their lifestyle. They just didn't know what to do. Or they didn't know it. Right. I mean, you get comfortable in a market and there's one thing advice I can give you is, the refis are, to me, I look at it this way, and he'll tell you, he used to come down on me because I didn't call on my book of business on refis. Because everyone else was doing it. D, you got to do this. You got to do this. To me, that's a part-time job.
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it. That's part-time. I need to make extra money. I'm going to call my refis. I'm going to call my book of business. But I'm going to focus on what's making me successful today, what will make me successful tomorrow, ongoing. Because I know the purchase market will never go away. Refis come and go. And those people that didn't focus on that these last couple of years are struggling right now.
But that's built through trials and tribulations. And
100%.
What I love, honestly, and I remember this was from one of the times that you spoke at one of our events, was when you first got into public speaking. You told us that you were like, it was terrible. I didn't know how to actually get people to engage with me.
Didn't even know what I didn't know.
And you didn't know what you didn't know until you met with individuals to actually get you the knowledge and the insight and how to speak to people. Yeah. It's definitely a trait that it takes time to actually develop and learn. So if you had to give advice to just people, even outside of real estate, right? Yeah. Outside of originators, how does trials and tribulations allow you to excel in any business that you want to build?
Oh man, what a question. I don't know. I don't really know that I have the right advice for anyone. I really don't, because I think everybody's journey in life, whatever they're doing, is their own journey. My perspective is pretty specific, obviously, to what I've seen and how I think. And I'm not always right, for sure. Certainly made my share of mistakes. Go die in the middle of Jackson Boulevard. The most famous sentence of all time. Would not say that again. I think curiosity matters a lot if you're for real. I read a book many years ago, I'll never forget, where somebody that's extremely successful in the books talked about, like, look, I might be working a job and there's never anything wrong with a job, obviously. But if my heart and desire is over here, this might be a means to pay the bills, but this is where I want to be. Or in my job, I want to be a little bit higher, right? But if I want anything in life, get into it. I might have to pay my bills with what I do from 9 to 5, but if I want to, my dream was to own a shop selling bikes. Go get a part-time job at a bike shop. Get immersed in it, or whatever. I didn't know how to speak. I just went and did it, and I was terrible. If you would see videos from me 20 years ago, you'd laugh. But I was okay with that, as long as I was always on the journey to find the next level. It's interesting. The mortgage business makes me laugh. People don't even know what they don't know. All of us go on LinkedIn. Literally go to any LinkedIn. Everybody's connected with each other in this industry. It's the same company message. So the day that it's 4th of July, you'll see every loan officer for the same company. Happy 4th of July. Celebrate, right? And every loan, right, has the same, it's all nonsense. It's almost laughable. Stop it. Don't get me wrong. You have to brand yourself. You have to be out in front of folks. But how many people are doing what you're doing? It's amazing. And just by people watching you, I promise you, you're so genuine. And I'm talking about you specifically, Justin. You're so real and you care that many people keep doing what you're doing, but you're doing it and they're not. Why? You just went and did it. So I don't know what the catalyst was, but you just went and did it. And I think that's my advice to folks. There's very few people that can make it work. Dwight said something very smart, and I mean this wholeheartedly. You're going to see who's real in this industry again right now. You can't rely on lead gen. You can't rely on the rate going from 4 to 3. But if you're real in this industry, it won't matter to you. You won't waste your time complaining because you don't have the best rate on the street, because that's not the determining factor. You're not going to worry about every program in the world. It's not a big deal. You just go do what you're supposed to do. And that is get up, brush your teeth, put a smile on your face, and go talk to people every single day. And I would say one more thing to that, if it's specific to this industry. Ask for the business. You know, I have a funny way of doing it, which is always why Dwight would laugh at me. But whether it was recruiting, whether it was business in general, I mean, if I had to give this, 1 second advice, and I got so many deals throughout my career by just going up to anybody. I don't care if it's a doctor that was treating me in the moment. And I would say something like this, my neurosurgeon, you know what bothers me? I gave you my business, but you don't give me your business. I don't even know what your business is. You should never ask. Oh, I'm in the business of writing loans to help people buy homes. Oh, I'm in the process of looking at buying a house. Good. Wrong. Now, here's the dumb, can't say that. Here's the ignorant way. Here's my card, call me. Oh, thank you for your card. Right in the garbage. No, you're never going to call me. Give me your info. Because I know for sure right now. And again, it's personality and it's learning, creating desire and excitement. And that is where people win. I mean this wholeheartedly.
But that takes training, doesn't it, John? Like
it does. It does.
Man.
You
did exactly what a good salesperson would do, and ask for the business. But you know how to ask for it.
That's right. The words, the language, the tonality, objection blocking, structuring, being prepared before you go into that meeting or talk, knowing what you're doing in a 10-second talk versus somebody you're meeting with in a 1 hour, controlling the meeting, having your call to actions, all that's choreographed. Now, it's intrinsic to your personality, but if you don't learn that, then you're just like everybody else out there. That would be my advice. Go learn it.
Go learn it. Just go learn it. Do it.
And if you don't know where to go learn it, find the right people to teach it,
But both the guys' stories is very fascinating to me because I think a lot of people get caught up in the life cycle, and that's doing your 9 to 5, doing something that you don't truly desire and you don't absolutely love. And you kind of touch base on something that I preach to people, because it's like, do the job that you love, right? And even if you desire it, you have a vision in your head, a voice in your head that's going to tell you, okay, this is not something that I see myself doing a long-term thing. And I realized really quick. I was in accounting. I was like, I can't do this, dude. I love talking to people. I was on my desk talking to people, and I was just working. I see all the other accountants around me, and I'm trying to have conversations with them. They're just like, dude, shut up. Again, they're yellow. They're just like, go ahead and work it. And I was the complete opposite of it. But the one thing I love
yellow. Look at you.
Yeah, there you go. But I learned that really quick for me, and I want to share that for everybody. You're going to come to a point in your life where you're going to look at the job that you're currently doing, and you're going to say to yourself, okay, I don't really see myself doing this long term. And it's up to you, to John's point, to Dwight's point, to just do it. You have to take the risk at some point in your life, and you have to understand that it's calculated risk, because here's the time frame, here's the goal that I want to hit, and I'm going to do it within this time frame. But the key to it is you actually have to jump in and dive into doing it.
You have to get interested in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want to finish out by saying I want to truly thank you guys for coming out. This has been an absolutely amazing experience. And for everyone who's watching, you guys got to take notes to everything they're saying, because there's no real truth and secret to success. It's just honestly having discipline to it, continue to meeting people to see how other people are doing the things that you want to do, learn from it, take notes, recreate it so you could do it for yourself, and then apply it. And just doing it. And honestly, there's not really anything different than what you have to do in order for you to be successful. So I truly want to thank you guys for coming out. And if you guys have any last words, just feel free to say them now.
No, but I will tell you this. My last words is I think that, we can all talk about what we need to do. What I want to do is invite John to the next one. and get a little more critical, dive a little deeper into what you're teaching me, right? So people can see exactly the difference between why is it important to learn people's personality, why sometimes it's important to do a story selling.
Yeah.
The difference is it's just to give people a taste of what will make you different from everybody else, right? Because at the end of the day, we're really here generally to help others get to their goals. And we are more than willing to share our knowledge and our experiences so they can, achieve them. So hopefully John can join us again the next time with getting diving a little deeper. Because if you let this guy talk, he'll be here for 2 hours.
Yeah, we would. The show would never end. What's funny is it's holistically big picture. It's like just language, right? It's big words, whole education. But when we get down to the nitty gritty, I would absolutely do that. And one of the challenges is everybody thinks they know everything, including myself sometimes, which is fair. We all have egos, right? And you and I talk about this all the time.
But you did give me the one of the best books. I've always said this: the best compliment someone can receive is to give you a book.
Yeah,
that's their way of making you better. And you gave me that ego is the enemy, and I've learned so much from that, John, that you have no idea.
And pass it on, and I'll tell you why. Because that happened with me. I had a very good mentor in a company I used to speak with called Fan Merrill, owned Fortune Builders, still does, very successful. And indirectly, so you got to read this book because we all hit plateaus where we think we know everything. And that's where it gets stale and gets boring. And then you figure out, wait a second, there's the next level. And the next level, if you're curious and if you're a winner. And that ego prevents us, and it happens. And I check myself all the time on it, but at least we're aware now. The worst part is ignorance when you don't even know. Next stage is where you start to have awareness that you don't know, but you're curious to get better. And then you eventually get to expertise. And the reason I say that is, like when we talk about colors, it seems airy-fairy maybe to some folks, not. It takes me 3 questions to ask somebody in 2 seconds to figure out what their first color is. Because if they're dominant red, I know exactly what to say in that moment to get them to go the direction I want, how to remove objections, because I know the outcome I want at the end. If I didn't know that, I'm going to spend 3 hours at a Starbucks coffee talking about something that's not resonating, and they're never going to tell me it's not resonating. I'm going to assume what I'm offering is the right thing, and it's not, because they're not even reacting because I'm not speaking their language. And I don't mean I mean like to get them excited. And so I'd be happy to share as best I can. There's people way beyond me on this kind of stuff. That's why we can literally identify 16 feet away, a 2-hour line to get on the rock and roll roller coaster at a 100-degree day in Disney. I just need to see the person in the line letting people on the back end, male, female, 2 or 3 questions quick, boom, run. And people don't even know what happened. And I'm like, you guys all wait there while we go on that ride, because we've got 18 more to get on while you get on 2 today. That's how really important it is. We, and you have that talent naturally, and then we just quantified it with specifics. But yeah, I'd be happy to come back, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I've enjoyed it.
We're definitely going to do it back. Thank you guys. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on here. Hope everyone has their cafecito on deck, more importantly. And also, if you haven't liked and subscribed already, go ahead and do so. We're super excited. Hope you guys took some notes and hope you have an amazing day. Take care.